Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about communication in a relationship. Now, communication is a huge topic. There are so many points and keys and aspects to think about in communication. There's more to communication than there are clouds in the sky. But today I'm going to be focusing on just one very narrow but very important part of communication that comes up in my life and makes a huge difference in helping people be more successful and happy. Communication is the most important skill to have. It does so many things for a relationship. It lets you fix problems if problems arise. If there's no problems, it lets you prevent problems. Then aside from the maintenance part of it, it allows you to share your thoughts and your emotions and your feelings with your partner. It allows you to create more connections with them. And the more connected two people are, the greater that bond is, the deeper the love is between two people when they're able to communicate and able to express themselves and how they feel. No one is a mind reader. We may think we know what the other person is thinking, but quite often, and much to our surprise and detriment, we could be wrong. We are wrong. So it is never safe to assume that you know exactly what's going through the other person's head. And communication lets that person share their thoughts with you. It lets them know, and it gives you a window into their mind and their existence and their reality. It really lets you inside of that other person's world so you can share what they're going through. And that's really what a relationship is. It's two people coming together to form a united front to experience the world together. So what is this aspect of communication that I want to talk about today? Well, I call it communication tennis. That's just a name I came up with it. But this dynamic, this part of communication has so many similarities to the game of tennis that I thought it was a very apt name for it. So imagine you're on one side of the net on a tennis court and your partner's on the other side of the net. Now, you're there just to have a wonderful afternoon and enjoy each other's company. It's just an outing. You're having fun. You want to be together and you want to do something while you're together. Now, tennising, is that a word, tennising? It is for the remainder of this video. So tennising can happen in several ways. One way it can happen is you're just easily hitting the ball over to your partner. They're hitting the ball back to you. And it's just about the enjoyment of being on the court with each other. You're having a great time. No one's really overexerting themselves, but the wind is blowing on your face. It's 60 degrees. You're having such a wonderful time. You haven't been out with your partner in a while. They've been too busy working. This is your first date, so to speak, in several weeks, and you're just loving the company. So the ball that you're hitting back and forth, let's imagine that is a piece of communication. It could be a statement. It could be some body language that you're conveying. It's anything that transfers a message to your partner from you. So you're hitting very soft shots. And let's imagine that those are pleasant types of communication because they're non-threatening. They're easy for your partner to see. They don't move very fast. They can get the enjoyment of responding to it and sending you back a nice, pleasant message of their own. The exchange in this type of just low-key, friendly episode of tennising, this friendly tennising experience, is so pleasant because you're both doing it together and you're having a wonderful time. That's one end of the spectrum for tennising. Now imagine on the other end of the spectrum that you two are engaged in a hyper-competitive tennis match. You're keeping score. Let's say you've got that new app on your phone that tracks the lines of a tennis court and lets you know when it's out. I just heard about this a few weeks ago. But it can tell you when the ball's in or out, and you have to win. Each person has to win. You're serving as hard as you can. You're putting your all into it. Your partner is responding and just really laying into each shot. Yeah, that's competitive, but is it fun? Are you guys really doing something you enjoy together, or are you competing against the other person? How much enjoyment is happening here? In that instance, the communication you send is very difficult for them to respond to. So let's go back to that first exchange, that happy, low-key, just almost lobbing the ball to each other. Now, in those exchanges, the communications are very pleasant, very soft, and they make both of you feel better because you're enjoying that experience. Now imagine all of a sudden, your partner hits a zinger, just blows right by you, and you're like, oh, what was that about? What happened? Or let's say they try to hit the ball and it goes into the net. Or they miss it completely. Or finally, what I, in real tennis, do all the time is I let it hit the frame of my racket and it just goes pull, 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 pull. It doesn't do anything. It just dribbles to a stop. But the point is that the experience has been broken. Your partner has either sent you something back that you really didn't appreciate, or they were unable to respond to the last shot that you gave them. Now, in your mind, this is going to cause one of several things to happen. If they sent you that zinger that just went right by you, or let's say just hit you in the leg and it really hurt, you're going to be mad. You're going to be you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be angry. And your response, the natural response, the instinctual response, and the normal response, I would say, is to hit another zinger back to them. Yeah, they're going to do that to you. You're going to do that to them. Okay. How do you think the rest of that tennis experience is going to go? All right. Now, let's say if they did one of the last three things I mentioned, where they hit it into the net, missed it completely, or just dribbled off their racket. You're going to see that missed shot or the inability to return what you sent them with some disappointment. You're going to be unhappy about that. You're either going to think less of your partner, you're going to be a little bit miffed, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to let out a big sigh, which is another message that they will receive. That's going to change the dynamics of the rest of the afternoon as well. That's going to make the tennis exchange less enjoyable for both of you. It may be a little thing, but after a while, 2 or 3 or 4 of those will add up, and it's not going to be fun anymore. So in this tennis match, not even a match, in this tennis afternoon where you're just hitting the ball back and forth and having a great series of communications and things were flowing well and you both felt really good, what changed? What happened right before your partner sent back that zinger or missed a shot or whatever it is that they did that changed the dynamics of the experience? Well, let me tell you, and this is the next level stuff. This is where we're going to take it and we're going to advance our ability to understand relationships and tennis games. Only one of 2 things happened. Either you set them up with a shot that was a little bit too fast, slightly out of bounds, something that they weren't expecting. Maybe had a little bit of spin on it, and they caught them off balance. They wanted to try and send it back to you as well as they could, but they simply couldn't. They didn't have the ability. So the point is, in every breakdown of communication, you will find either that right before you received, I'll call it a no vote, a negative communication from them, something that made you sad, something that made you upset, something that made you angry, they received from you something that did the same. Or something external, an external force, something outside of you, outside of your partner, outside of the tennis match, the tennis court, distracted or influenced your partner's response, their return. That could have been a gust of wind. That could have been something they saw over your shoulder that they were looking at, and all of a sudden they missed the ball, went right by you. Now, in both of those situations where you first gave them a negative communication and you might not have realized it, most of the time we don't. We don't want to hurt our partners. We don't want to upset them when we're having a good time. 2 people aren't together because they hate each other. I mean, that may happen after a while, but we'll get there. We'll talk about those type of relationships later. But they don't start off a relationship because of dislike for the other person. They want the other person to be happy. That's natural. Now, in both situations, the fix, the cure, the solution, whatever you want to call it, the way of restoring the communication, making you both feel better, is the same. What you do is you stop. Don't lose your cool. Pause for a minute or 2. It's okay. Take some time out. I'm a slow thinker, so I have to pause quite a bit. You stop. You think about what just happened. You think about what they did, and then you think backwards. You think 1 or 2 steps before that. What did you do? What did you say? What kind of body language did you have? What did you miss? Did you omit something? What did you do to set your partner up for that bad shot? And if you don't know what happened, if you think back and you can't see anything that was a misstep or anything that was a bad shot, so to speak, ask. Just ask them, hey, so how you feeling? What's on your mind? Or did I do something to upset you? It seems like the mood just kind of changed quickly. If I did, I don't know what it was. And if I hurt you, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. That's a friend reaching out to a friend trying to fix a problem, and your partner's going to see that. It's going to help. Then once you figure out what it is, if they tell you like, oh, you did this or you did that, even if it wasn't at all what you meant something completely different, that it was taken out of context, you remedy that. Now, you remedy it by working through it. You either explain yourself like, oh gosh, I did not mean it that way at all. No, what I meant was, and then explain what you truly meant. Or if there's no other way to take it and you just had a kind of a slip, own up to it. Oh, you're right. That was a terrible thing to say. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just something happened. My mind slipped. I can't believe I said that. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. Now, in a worst case scenario, if you ask them what's wrong and you try to get the information because you honestly don't know and they won't tell you, they can't tell you, or even they're not sure, basically you still have no idea afterwards, then what you do is you pause. You remain calm, patient with your partner. Just realize that you love your partner and your partner loves you, no matter what your feelings you maybe have, because you might be frustrated, you might be angry, and you become expansive. You allow for some of the emotions between you to exist. Like, okay, I'm feeling frustrated. My partner's feeling frustrated. I know that. I don't have to react to it. I'm just going to go about my day. I'm going to continue to be kind and polite. I am going to continue to be understanding. And I realize that this isn't something I can fix right now, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be fixed. But just remain who you are, true to yourself. Don't let their behavior change you. Don't get upset at them. Don't attack them. Don't lash out. Don't do anything like that. But on the other hand, don't withdraw. And this is a big pitfall for me. In the few times when my partner does get upset and I don't understand why, I tend to take it personally and I don't want to be involved in this situation. I withdraw. And that's a bad dynamic. Your partner loves you. Even if they're upset, they don't want you to pull away. That just makes them feel more insecure. So just be there. Be present. If they ask you something like, hey, I need some time, of course, then go outside for a walk, go play with your dog, whatever. If they specifically request some alone time, and that happens a lot, it's fine. Give them that time. If they don't say anything, go about your day. Continue to address it every once in a while if it festers on, but most of the time it won't. You won't even get to that point. And eventually what will happen is the tempers, the feelings, and the emotions will drain, because emotions are just a chemical reaction in our brain. Those chemicals will dissipate. We will return to ourselves. Your partner will become in a less volatile state of mind, and so will you, and the dialogue will open back up, and this problem will be resolved. It will not last forever. At some point, there will be a resolution. It's just a matter of time. So be patient. Above all else, be patient. Okay, let's take a deeper look. We're going to dive deeper into this and really just shine that spotlight of understanding all over this aspect of communication, because this is something that happens to me a lot. I have had to practice on recognizing and responding to it quite a bit. But just the realization of what's going on helped tremendously. And the nice thing is, once you develop the skills to address these type of problems, whenever there's a breakdown in communication, feeling better, ending the fight, and getting past it can happen almost immediately, under a minute, a few seconds. The attitudes will change. You can both snap out of it and just go about your day almost instantly. That's why I want to help you guys get to that point, because this is an instant fix. It doesn't take days and days of talking and working through things. Like, it can happen now. Something goes wrong, communication breaks down, you handle it right. Hey, life is back on track right away. And that's awesome. Okay, so let's say you and your partner are in the living room and just chatting, having a good time. And I'm going to talk about that first situation where it's you sent something over the net their way that you didn't realize that they were not able to respond to or took incorrectly. Now, in these cases, there is a one-to-one relationship between a negative or a no vote, and I'll call any sort of communication here, whether it be verbal, nonverbal, an omission, a failure to act, just anything that makes you feel bad that your partner does. I'm going to call that a no vote. It's a great way to just encapsulate anything that might be said or done or missed. So when you receive a no vote that makes you feel unhappy, like bothered, you're upset, you're distressed, you're sad, you're worried, you're angered, any of those negative emotions, when your partner sends that to you, there's a one-to-one correlation between that, receiving that, and something that you did almost immediately prior. It could be just the sentence or two that you said right beforehand. It could have been something that you did a few minutes ago. It could have been something you forgot to do. It could be an omission or a failure to act. But whatever it is, it happened almost right away. It's contemporaneous. It happened within, I'd say, seconds or minutes from you receiving that negative input. Now, the secret is to just, like I said, stop, think through it. Don't lose your cool. What did you do? And I don't want this to seem like we have to take guilt and responsibility or feel bad about our actions. That's not the point of this. The point of this is like a car mechanic working on a car engine. What's wrong with the engine? We have a problem. We have to fix it. I know how to fix it, and here are the steps. First, one, identify what I did that caused my partner to send me that no vote. Then 2, how can I remedy that? Do I explain it? Do I apologize for it? Do I take a different action? Do I explain my thoughts to my partner? If I can't figure it out, I will ask them, can I get more information from them? If they're able to give it to me, great. I address it and I remedy it in the ways that we talked, explaining, apologizing, whatever it is, whatever creative solution that you think is best to take care of that problem. Because, hey, you're in this relationship. You will know after your partner tells you what went wrong, how to fix it. You'll be able to figure that out. And here's the great thing is, let's say you try something that doesn't work. You just repeat the process and you keep trying to remedy each step along the way until finally you get it right and the problem will resolve. It may take a couple attempts at it, depending on how involved the nature of the discussion is, but it'll work. You'll get past it. I know you will. It's what happens every time. But you just have to keep working at it. Let's run through a couple of real-world examples just to see how this comes into play. Now, these are examples that I've either witnessed or have happened to me, and I've had to deal with this quite a bit. Now, there are some subtle examples we'll talk about in a minute, but let's begin with the more obvious ones, the more easy to identify, easy to understand situations where the communication tenets can break down, where you did something that caused your partner to send you back a bad shot. Let's imagine for a moment that the two of you are sitting down to dinner. Let's say your partner made the dinner. They came home after a long day of work. They stopped at the grocery store. They bought a wonderful salmon fillet. They cooked it up. They served it with some vegetables. You're each having a wonderful glass of white wine to go along with it. Your partner looks over the table at you and says, hey, what do you think of the salmon? And you just look down and say, it's kind of burnt. You don't think much about it. It's true. We're part of the salmon's burnt. Let's say that's in fact what happened. Then your partner responds with a roll of their eyes, a nonverbal communication you kind of look at. Or your partner doesn't do anything, just sits there silently, doesn't talk for the next 5 minutes. Kind of quiet. You're uncomfortable. You don't know why. Your partner gets a little passive aggressive. Hey, angsty much? Or they just get up and they leave. Any response, there could be a whole wide range of responses, but the point is they're communicating something to you that is a no vote. They did not approve of something. Now, it's pretty easy to connect their reaction with what you said about that fish, because think about what happened. They put a lot of effort into this. They were probably tired when they made it. They spent time out of their day cooking for the both of you. They did something for you as well as for them. They sought your appreciation on it. They sought recognition of their efforts. And you pretty much said, it wasn't worth it and you're no good. That's how they heard it. That's how it came across. Okay, so now let's say there's something a little less subtle. It's still pretty obvious, but a little less subtle. I actually saw this happen once. We sat down to a table, and my partner and I were on one side of the table, and our hosts were on the other side of the table. And one of our hosts had spent 3 or 4 hours making this wonderful dinner for us. We hadn't seen them in a long time. We brought some dishes of our own, and she had taken the time to make this fantastic dinner. So she sets the big family-style container of food down in front of us, and her partner says, hey, don't worry, it tastes better than it looks. Oh, my goodness. I almost choked. I just sat there. And of course, what do you think happened? You're exactly right. What do you mean? It just came out. And the interesting part was the reaction on his face. The partner that said this, I saw him and he just jumped. And he knew right away. I meant that food tastes very good. He had to spend a little bit of time using a technique I call backpedaling to get himself out of that. But it was a perfect example of he said something, he served his partner this awful shot of no vote, of the food looks awful, is essentially what he said. And she fired back with a zinger. It was, oh my gosh, I felt so bad for them. It was very, but the good thing is that he did work through it. And he apologized for what he said, and almost right away, the matter was forgotten, and we moved on with dinner and had a great evening. It was a perfect example of how this process works. Now let's talk about something super subtle. I took a mason jar, had like a couple of chia seeds on it, and I go up to my partner and said, oh wow, look at the food still left on this. That was the response I got, was just kind of shrugging shoulders and a slight huff. And I thought, what happened? And I didn't think much of it for a few seconds, and started to realize, oh shoot, my partner the previous night had spent some time after she got home from a 12-hour shift and did the dishes, took the time to clean out the sink, put them all in the dishwasher, ran the dishwasher, and then put them away this morning. And I grabbed the mason jar out of the cupboard, looked at it, and with one statement gave her a no vote for all of her hard work when she was tired, probably didn't want to do dishes, and again for her work this morning and putting it away. All of the work she put into those dishes, with one fell swoop, I said, this is no good. What would be a better way to handle that? Because there are communications that have to be made. You have to tell your partner things. If I saw that chia seed on there, what could I have done differently? What could I have done differently that wouldn't have gotten that no vote back? Well, okay, I've got the mason jar with the chia seed. What I could have said, and this would have gone over so much better, oh, hey, babe, thank you so much for doing the dishes last night and putting them away this morning. I know you were tired when you got home. That was really awesome. You took the time to do that. Oh, hey, the dishwasher just isn't keeping up with demand. It's letting us down. And you see this little chia seed I noticed on one of the dishes. I think we might have to do a little bit more kind of pre-washing. But again, I appreciate all your hard work. It's just the dishwasher isn't able to get everything out of these mason jars. Okay, now in that, I attempted to do two things. Whether or not it actually worked will depend on her response, because every response is subjective. What I attempted to do was recognize her efforts and work, gave her a yes vote for all of that. Very happy she did that. Then I tried to transfer the source of the problem from her to a third entity, a third party, something that wasn't either one of us. One of my favorite techniques when dealing with any sort of problem is to try to turn it into a situation of us versus it or us versus the world. It is not, we have a problem between us. It's, hey, we have a problem. How do we as a united front deal with this? And by saying the dishwasher isn't cutting it, my attempt was to turn it from a problem of either on her part or my part into the dishwasher has a problem. How can we address that? Maybe prescribe it a little bit better. So again, I attempted to soften the blow, and then I attempted to transfer the onus or the focus of the problem onto a third party. Let's talk about that second situation where you didn't send them a bad shot, but all of a sudden you get a no vote. You get a bad shot from them, and you think back, and you're convinced you did nothing wrong. Let's look outside the box. What happened? What may have influenced your partner that caused your partner to send you that hurtful statement, that disaffirming body action? Is there something in their world that you're not aware of that may have caused them to sort of miss their swing or caused them to be distracted when they told you something? Quite often, your partner may be dealing with a stress either at work, maybe something health related, maybe something with their own family, or something that you have no idea what's going on that's consuming their attention that causes them to inadvertently, without intention, say or do something that hurts you. Now, I have a perfect example of this. This happens quite a bit in my own world. My partner works a very demanding job. She's quite often gone 12 to 14 hours a day, and when she's at work, she's extremely busy. She's very rarely able to respond to texts, and sometimes when she does, it's a very short, terse response. Like, for example, I will send her 3 or 4 texts of, just talking about something. Maybe I'll send a cute picture of one of our dogs. I'll ask her what she'd like for dinner. And then an hour and a half later, after not hearing anything back from her, I'll just see one with cute. Doesn't address any of the questions I sent. It doesn't, have any sort of meaningful response. It's just, oh, the dog picture was cute. Oh, God, just one word. That seems cold. Is she upset? Is she angry at me? No, she's up to her eyeballs in work. And this has happened so often where she's under a tremendous amount of stress. Her coworkers and her are just being ground into the ground. They're in like a flour mill, being pounded by the demands of their job. And her emotional capacity, her mental capacity, and her emotional space is only large enough to recognize that I sent her a text, write down immediately what was on her mind so she could move on with the rest of her problems. It has nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with what was going on at work. I couldn't see that. I took it personally. And if I hadn't have thought through that, and if I didn't recognize like work is so demanding on her part, I may have fired back like, hey, what's wrong? What? I send you those 3 texts and all I say is cute. Or I may have internalized it and taken it personally and sent back something like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to upset you with those texts. And that would have just continued on the chain of misunderstandings. But instead, what I do was I continue to send her texts whenever I feel like I want to send her a text, but I expect nothing in return. I became expansive. I understand and I think through the facts, the evidence at hand, that she has a very busy job. I've seen this pattern before, and I know when she comes home, I will have heard about how busy her day was. So I don't change my behaviors, And that's what works. It's what works best. It's how we get through this. It's how I take a step back, look at the underlying cause of that no vote, that miscommunication, and realize there's something in her world, not us, that is changing our dynamic. That's the second situation. But again, I used that same formula. I stopped. I thought about what went on. I have asked in the past, like, hey, were you busy today? And then I attempt to remedy it. In this case, the remedy is not to alter behavior. Sometimes you can explain or apologize or work through things in person, especially in this digital age. The remedy was to simply continue on as if nothing had happened. And that's the remedy in these situations. That's what works for us. It took some experimenting. It didn't happen the first time the right way. I've gotten it wrong before, but that's what works, is just hold the course. So what I want you guys to remember from this is whenever there's a breakdown in communication, your partner says or does something that's a no vote, that hurts you, that makes you feel bad, maybe makes you feel angry, frustrated, it causes you to have a negative emotion. Stop. Think about what just happened. Think back a step or two or three and look to see what you did that may have caused your partner to send you that no vote. Now, if you can't think of anything, ask, hey, what happened? You seem upset. What's wrong? Just something like that. Be soft, be gentle, then remedy. And here's the really important part. This isn't going to work like a dream the first time. It's going to take some practice. But the better at it you get, the sooner you're going to be able to resolve problems, and the faster you're going to get back on course with your partner, and the better relationship you're going to have. So use this over and over and over again, and keep practicing. It's like a skill. Put it in your tool belt. Put the skill in your tool belt and sharpen it. Keep using it. Make it so effective that when there is a breakdown in communication, you can resolve it in 10 seconds or less. And I know it can happen. I've seen it happen to other people. It's happened for me. It will happen for you. Just practice it. And don't give up if it doesn't work the first time or two. You'll get better at it. You'll notice improvements. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching today. I really enjoyed sharing these thoughts with you. I hope you're in an awesome relationship. I hope you're on your way there. And that's all I want for you guys. I want for you guys to be in a fantastic, wonderful, rewarding, long-term relationship. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.